World War III, World War III, World War III. It is absolutely insane. It's exposing like all the people who pretended to be against Trump, who pretended to be against like everything that he does, who were like, well, but he's going to be worse. And then Trump does like literally the worst possible thing he could do. And everyone who said that supports it on the basis that like, but in Iran, you have to wear a hijab. Ergo, we need to bomb all those civilians. So everything about this, about the strikes in Iran, all of them, from Israel to the US literally struck fucking nuclear facilities, by the way. I'm sure I don't need to explain to people with a brain why airstriking nuclear facilities is not a thing you should generally do. But everything about this, from the narrative that spawned these attacks to them actually happening, is in Iran's favor, obviously. All of the countries that wave their fucking fingers at Iran for daring to attempt to develop its own local nuclear energy industry, which is what they're actually doing. There's never been even an ounce of evidence that they are attempting to create nuclear weapons. And if they were, that would be well in their right, given that all the countries that wave their fucking fingers at them for trying to develop them not only have them themselves, but are way worse than Iran. Who? Fucking the USA? Even if like the Iranian government was like the worst government in the entire world, just by virtue of power, the USA would still be so much fucking worse. But they're not. Like the USA has nukes. Fucking Israel has nuclear bombs. What, like fucking half the countries in Europe have nuclear bombs. These are all countries that should have nukes less than Iran. So if Iran wanted to develop them, it would be well within its right, and these strikes show why it would be within its right. It's a relatively isolated, poor country that is a frequent target for imperialism, but it was never actually developing nukes anyway. There's no evidence that Iran has been doing anything but developing nuclear energy. And what has been happening in Iran, not just now, but everything that preceded this, like literal assassinations of like basically anyone with a PhD who studied like nuclear physics, monthly almost assassinations. In Iran, like if you study nuclear physics, you devote your life to like studying. To be clear, what is a field that the world desperately needs more of? Like, the world needs nuclear energy, or at least it needed it. At this point, it's too fucking late. They're killing the nuclear scientists in a country that fucking spawns lots of them. Great fucking job, right? With climate change on the horizon, isn't it? For decades, Israel, with the support of the US, has been massacring Iranian scientists, basically anyone at all involved in the Iranian, or tangentially involved, even just allegedly involved, because there's often no proof, in the Iranian nuclear energy program. Iran obviously is a sovereign country that has every fucking right to develop nuclear energy, and yet they are attacked for it. And they are attacked for it on the basis, like how are you seeing people justify these strikes? Literally strikes on fucking nuclear facilities. Strikes that have massacred like a ratio of like 20 civilians to even one person who can remotely be called a combatant. And they justify this by saying, well, the Iranian government's bad, so it's okay. The Iranian government's bad, so I guess we need to fucking massacre them. The Iranian government's bad, so I guess the Iranian people have no right to clean and cheap energy. Is that how this works? You can get arrested in Iran for not wearing a hijab, so we need to bomb your house and kill you? Fucking great. Feminism, girl boss. Yeah. Great logic. Obviously, it's fucking bullshit. This sort of thing is the new civilizing mission. It's the new stock justification for imperialism, for massacre. We need to kill these people because they're savages or because they're not Christians, and that sort of thing has been replaced with, we need to kill these people because their government won't let them go outside without a hijab on. These justifications are one and the same. They try to frame these attacks as being like for Iranians, the same Iranians being bombed, the same Iranians being massacred, the same Iranians having their critical energy infrastructure destroyed, their homes destroyed, their livelihoods destroyed. Everything about this is criminal, and anyone who's not calling it out in the sharpest possible terms is a disgusting piglet. Anyone even remotely hesitating to denounce all of this from the very beginning, not just the strikes themselves, but everything that preceded and led to this in the first place as well, is a disgusting imperialist scumbag who you should never trust in your life. The same exact thing done by a supposed enemy country to one of the countries that they support, and they would be all over it. Like all the same people talking about how bad it was to invade Ukraine. Here they are, fucking cheering on as a poor country is bombed back into the fucking Stone Age for daring to try to utilize modern science and technology to generate cheap energy, and for possibly, allegedly, attempting to develop defensive weaponry to ensure that this can't be done to them. The same people who say, of course I'm against what Israel's doing in Gaza, now they're supporting Israel, fucking massacring civilians in a third country. A fourth country. I forgot about Yemen. A fourth country in less than 2 years. I'm against Netanyahu. I'm against the Israeli government. I'm against the genocide. But I gotta say, I really like it when he blows up random Iranian civilian women because they can wear a hijab, so they might as well just be dead. I guess they're being liberated by death. They're being liberated by destruction. The rationale obviously makes no sense at all. They claim they're doing this for the very people who they're massacring. For the very people whose country they're destroying, whose lives they're upending. The same fucking thing these people do with Gaza. Free Gaza from Hamas! Well, last I checked, when Gaza was ruled by Hamas, hundreds of thousands of people hadn't been massacred in less than 2 years under their rule. So, what's up with that? Last I checked, hundreds of random civilians weren't being massacred in Iran in a day or two previously, with like random scientists being targeted for killing, with like the country's critical energy infrastructure being destroyed, with millions upon millions, 10 plus million people perhaps, being forced to evacuate their homes. I love to liberate people by making everything so much fucking worse than it was before. It's the Iraq War bullshit all over again. They claim to have learned from it, and they're here supporting again, because fundamentally, you have to understand, liberalism and the people who call themselves leftists but who are still liberals is not a coherent ideology. It's in fact not an ideology at all. It's a post hoc justification. Liberalism is a justification, not a belief system. Liberalism adapts to whatever fits the circumstances to justify Western imperialism, to justify capitalism. That is all it is. A liberal who'll tell you 1 second how you need to vote for Kamala Harris to stop Trump because, Kamala will be better for Gaza, and I really genuinely care about the poor people of Gaza, but unfortunately Biden's hands are tied. That same person, soon following, what do they do when Trump bombs Iran? Good on you, Trump. Women there wear hijabs. What did they expect? Liberalism is not a coherent ideology, as I said. Liberalism is a justification. Remember that. That's the only way it will make sense to you. I hate the way that people always argue, this person doesn't abide by their stated principles. Look how inconsistent this person's ideology is. They don't have an ideology. They don't have principles. They don't have consistency because they are ultimately trying to justify their own position of wealth and privilege in the capitalist world system, in the imperialist world system. And they're supporting things on the basis of, do I think this thing benefits my position in this system? Do I think it keeps me in the privileged position that I'm in or not? That's all. That's what liberalism actually is. And that's why you're seeing so many supposed anti-Trump people, definitely anti-Israel's excesses in Gaza people, anti-Netanyahu people, suddenly supporting both of those people because they were never actually against them. They were only against Netanyahu because of how bad he makes them look. They were only against Trump insofar as he might do things that don't benefit them domestically. That's all. Or really not even that, because Trump's stuff really does benefit them domestically. Most of the time, because they're fucking rich. They don't like Trump ultimately just because he's too obvious about it. But when it comes down to that is what he actually does, they are just on board with it as they were when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were doing it. It's all because, as I said, there is no ideology at play here. There is no real political principles at play here. The only political principles is, what do I think is best for me? That is where all of this comes from. That's why you see these contradictions, this hypocrisy. And you should never trust these people. Never trust them ever again. When they tell you they were against the Iraq War, for example, you should have known they weren't actually against it. They never were. They were against it because it made them look bad in retrospect. The second that it comes time to actually learn something from it, they repeat it, don't they? And this keeps happening. It keeps happening. It keeps happening. Because it's an issue of material interests, of selfishness, of them being horrible people who are happy to see hundreds, thousands massacred for their own perceived benefit. They just don't want you to perceive them as being happy about it, even though in this case it's pretty fucking obvious that they are. I don't know where we're going to go from here. I don't know. I don't expect anything from Americans. Americans don't do things. Americans are in the position of the highest potential power to stop this sort of thing, but they also do the least. I don't expect anything from Americans if they were not taking drastic action already in response to the Gaza genocide. I don't think they're going to do anything like potentially course changing in regards to this either. Fucking UK ambassador to the UN says, we urge Iran to show restraint. Shut the fuck up. Israel attacks Iran. Israel did that. The US attacks Iran. The US did that. And the one who needs to show restraint is the fucking poor victim of imperialism nation, not the fucking imperial power and its genocidal proxy. It's the victim. The rape victim needs to show restraint is what they're saying here. So bottom line is, it doesn't fucking matter if the Iranian government is bad. Revolution in Iran can only come from within. Not from bombing the potential revolutionaries. Fucking Christ. Who can forget when in the Cuban Revolution the Batista regime was overthrown by warplanes carpet bombing Havana and killing thousands of civilians? Who can forget? Foreign warplanes. Let's make a list of revolutions that against shitty governments that have been achieved by bombing their people into smithereens. Oh, 0. These justifications are fucking bullshit. These people apparently need to die because their government prevents them from not wearing a hijab. What an incredible logic. This is the logic of imperialism. Parnia Abbasi, 24-year-old poet, killed in an Israeli airstrike. She'll never have to wear a hijab again. Feminism. Girl boss. Really sticking it to the fucking regime there. She was killed along with her entire family. All 4 of them are dead. Killed by Israel. They'll never have to wear a hijab ever again. Liberated for feminism. And the trajectory of this very family is emblematic of why Iran is such a target. Parnia Abbasi was a graduate from a state university who worked for a public bank. We can't have those things. We can't have state institutions helping their people advance. We can't have a national bank owned by the state. This country must be destroyed. And fundamentally, the reason why these Western liberals, Western powers are so against Iran is, for one, because Iran is big enough to constitute a regional power in its own right, which in of itself means that it always poses a threat to their geopolitical interests. But for 2, it's not because of the supposed bad things that the Iranian government does. It's not because of those. It's for the actual good things that it does. They really don't give a shit about the hijab. I mean, these people support Saudi Arabia. Give me a break. Saudi Arabia is a billion times more repressive religious state than Iran ever has been. Iran educates women. Iran lets women do tons of shit. In fact, women in Iran have, ironically, better access to public services than they do in the fucking USA. Regressive social attitudes aside, but that's the part of it that they are actually against. They're not against the, oh my God, they have to wear a hijab sort of thing. They're not against the fact there's a religious government. What they are actually against is the good things about the Iranian state. The fact that it does offer its people pretty substantial education at little to no cost to themselves. Stuff like that. And for that, they must be bombed. They must be massacred. This entire family must be exploded. They'll never have to wear a hijab ever again. Thank you, Israel. Thank you, the USA. No more repressive Islamic regime for these people, because they're fucking dead.